NBA free agency. It's always so fascinating and unpredictable, and in this video we're going to be talking about the biggest moves and takeaways from this year's NBA free agency so far. And y'all see Damian Lillard on the thumbnail because I think he's for sure a winner from this free agency. But before we get into him specifically, I like what three of these teams did. The Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets, and the Atlanta Hawks. I think they have been cooking and making really good moves throughout this free agency. And I think a lot of people, specifically in the Western Conference, are already positioning the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Nuggets to be the potential favorites in the Western Conference, and we'll certainly have to see how the season goes. Of course, there's still basketball to be played and not everything is on paper, but I can certainly see that the Houston Rockets made a lot of good deals, of course trading for Kevin Durant, then retaining Fred VanVleet and signing him to a really reasonable 2-year $50 million contract extension, then finessing Dorian Finney-Smith from the Los Angeles Lakers and signing him on a 4-year $53 million deal. A really good role player that's going to help provide them some good 3-and-D capability and just be another versatile player and add some toughness and edge to that Rockets defense, who takes pride under Ime Udoka with that defensive identity. Bringing back Clint Capella for a second stint after Clint started his NBA career in Houston in 2014. We remember him being a part of those Rockets teams with James Harden and Chris Paul in that era. And of course, he was traded to the Atlanta Hawks after the Rockets wanted to do a small ball type of deal with Russell Westbrook and James Harden in the 2019-20 season. But Clint Capella is back on a 3-year $21 million deal, and that brings the Rockets to have really 3 major bigs. Of course, Alfred Sengun, the all-star center, then with Steven Adams behind him, and now Clint Capella as well too. They're really forming a team with a lot of size, pause, so they can match up with a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets too, which we will talk about in a second with their moves. And then of course bringing back Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday, Jayshawn Tate, some rotational pieces just to help with a veteran presence in the locker room and just being able to provide effective minutes too. That's really integral, and I like what the Rockets are doing because they're trying to win now, and of course they still have a lot of their young core with Amen Thompson, Alfred Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr. by the way, who they also extended to a 5-year $422 million deal. Still having Reed Shepherd. As someone who covers the Rockets and from the Houston area, I would prefer them to keep Cam Whitmore, but we'll see about that. But they still have a lot of deep pieces, and that's bringing the conversation to a lot of these teams in the Western Conference having deep rosters like the Mavericks, like the Nuggets now, and like these other teams. But talking about the Nuggets in the Western Conference too, before we get into the Atlanta Hawks, the Nuggets made a really good move, in my opinion, trading for Cam Johnson. I think that was really wise. Michael Porter Jr., a really solid player, but at times, if he wasn't getting the ball, specifically in the playoffs, he just looked disinterested, and that's something that you can't have. And also, teams really picked on him from a defensive perspective too, and he wasn't the greatest defender. So trading for Cam Johnson may not be the best move offensively, but even though Cam Johnson, he's a really good and solid player offensively as well too, because I know he was on the Brooklyn Nets, but he nearly averaged 19 points per game, and Michael Porter Jr. averaged 18 points per game. So in my opinion, you're not missing that much, and you're adding an improved defender. And with that, really the biggest reason for the trade, in my opinion, among other things, you're getting a player that is making $17 million less than Cam Johnson, because Michael Porter Jr. is going to be making $38.3 million in the 2025-26 season, while Cam Johnson is going to be making $21 million. So that just helps them get out the second apron as well too, getting further away from that second apron, which a lot of teams are trying to do, because when you're in that second apron, you are certainly deadlocked for sure. But with the Nuggets though, I like really that move a lot, but also with that, bringing back Bruce Brown, who was an integral piece of their 2023 championship team that won the NBA Finals, really a Swiss Army type of role player that was really good for them, and they've missed a player like him the past couple of seasons, as we saw in the playoffs and the regular season, and just having limited bench depth, that's going to be really good, bringing in Bruce Brown. They also brought in Tim Hardaway Jr., who's a really good 3-point shooter. He's moved around the league a lot for sure, but he was really good for that Pistons teams last year, and he is able to be a solid shooter at times too, and that's a player that Nikola Jokic can swing the ball out to and get some easy shots for too, so that only helps them. And then they also traded Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas, who I think Jonas Valanciunas, he's certainly a solid big man, and that's a really good backup center to have behind Jokic, and we'll see how much he plays in the playoffs. But I really like that move, and like I said, the Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets, they're making really good moves to try to continue to push that championship window open. And for the Nuggets specifically, like I just mentioned, they won the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They're trying to get another championship team formed around Nikola Jokic, because with a player like that, you're going to have multiple windows, and he just turned 30 in February, so he is certainly still in the early stages of his prime, in my opinion, and the way that he plays and how he impacts his team overall, averaging a triple-double this past season. As long as he stays healthy, which Lord willing, knock on wood, we can expect that, he's going to only continue to be one of the best players, if not the best player in the league for sure. So that's some really good moves that the Nuggets have made, and they have been cooking for sure. But also the Atlanta Hawks in an Eastern Conference that is wide open. I mentioned it in my NBA draft video that I just posted. Check that out for sure. The East is wide open, and a team like the Hawks, they are going to take full advantage of this opportunity next season, with a team like the Boston Celtics not having Jason Tatum, with the Indiana Pacers not having Tyrese Halliburton. Teams like the Hawks, the Magic, they're going to have opportunities to really open up a potential championship window and really open up a window for a potential deep playoff run in the 2026 Eastern Conference playoffs. And I can certainly see that from the Hawks, because we saw that deep run that they had unexpectedly in the 2021 playoffs making the conference final. And with Trae Young, who is still playing at a high level, I know sometimes his shot selection is a little iffy, but he still is certainly one of the best 5 to 10 point guards in this league. They're really forming a good team around him, and I like them signing a player like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a 4-year, $62 million deal. Provides some really good defensive versatility for that team, and also signing Luke Kennard on a 1-year, $11 million deal too. That just adds some more depth and versatility to that team from a guard standpoint. But then they traded for Kristaps Porzingis too, and as long as Porzingis can stay healthy, that's another front court weapon right there at the power forward position who can stretch the floor. Also, don't forget the Atlanta Hawks have Dyson Daniels, who just won Most Improved Player of the Year this past season, in addition to being one of the better defensive guards and defensive players in the league as well too. And then Jalen Johnson, who was really hooping this season before tearing his labrum, which caused him to miss the rest of the season. He's averaging nearly 19 points per game and 10 rebounds. He was hooping and only played 36 games too. So I'm telling y'all, don't sleep on ATL, because they have a lot of talent that's being built there, in addition to that first round pick that they acquired from the New Orleans Pelicans during the 2025 draft. So I think those are some good moves from the Hawks that they've made from all those 3 teams, and that's why you see them in the thumbnail as well mentioned. But of course, also we have the player in the thumbnail, Damian Lillard. And I know it might look like he's upset in the photo, but really, like I mentioned, Damian Lillard, actually, he might be the biggest winner from this whole sweepstakes in this NBA free agency period right now, because I'm not sure if y'all remember, but there was a brief moment last year in the 23-24 season when he first got to the Bucks or around that area. He was talking about how he was a little lonely. His family was still in Portland and stuff like that. And no disrespect to my people from Wisconsin or from Milwaukee, but not a lot of stuff to do. He was isolated. So he said he felt lonely and stuff like that. And I know we probably thought and expected when that trade happened for Giannis and Damian Lillard to open up a new championship window in Milwaukee, but just things didn't work out, and that's why the tenure was so short. And then after this Achilles injury, we just saw the writing on the wall that there was a potential for this divorce to happen. But Damian Lillard is a big winner for multiple reasons. One of the first reasons why, beyond being able to pick whatever team he wants to go to next season and beyond, he's getting paid $22.5 million until 2030. That's insane. That's going to be dead money on the Milwaukee Bucks books for the next 5 years. And I understand them signing a guy like Miles Turner from their biggest opposition, or one of their biggest enemies or rivals, or whatever you want to call it, in the Indiana Pacers. Those teams in the Bucks and Pacers absolutely despise each other. I think we all saw that in the playoffs this season and last year for sure. I think doing that's a good move in terms of Giannis wanting Miles Turner to be there. But realistically, how far do we see the Bucks really going in the playoffs? And that's no disrespect. In my opinion, they're still a first round exit team, maybe a second round team potentially, but I think that's their max. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, it doesn't seem like he's gonna request a trade. He doesn't seem like that guy. He loves Milwaukee and stuff like that. He wants to win there. He brought them a championship, but he wants multiple, of course. But I just don't see him requesting a trade, and understandably so, I guess. But I just don't think that move, bringing in Miles Turner, pushes the needle. No disrespect to him, because he's a solid big man, and he had some good moments for the Pacers in this deep playoff run that they had going into the NBA Finals, nearly winning the NBA Finals, falling short in the Game 7 against the Thunder. But I'm just not too convinced by the Bucks making that move. But for Damian Lillard, though, he is going to be able to rehab in Portland, and Mark Spears of ESPN also said this about Damian Lillard and the team that he may go to next.
And how many teams are calling? Oh, they're calling. There's about double-digit number of teams calling, interested in him. So I think the big question, too, is like, well, when will Dame be back? There's some speculation that he could be back around the All-Star break.
So he's going to be recovering and rehabbing in Portland, but he's going to be able to pick whatever team he wants to go to, and especially if he can return after the All-Star break and get things ready for whatever team that he joins to prepare for the playoffs, that would be huge. But my biggest takeaway from that is that multiple teams, double-digit teams, of course multiple teams, double-digit teams are going to be trying to sign him. And at that point, that'll provide an opportunity for a bidding war for him to even access more money. So that's insane for Damian Lillard, who's about to turn 35 years old here in July. It's just a beautiful thing for him, and his game doesn't necessarily rely too much on athleticism. We know the type of sniper that he is from three-point range, shooting over 37% from the three for his career, and being 4th all-time in career three-pointers made behind Steph, James Harden, and Ray Allen. He's a marksman, and he's going to be able to continue to do that on whatever potential team that he goes to next. I'm not necessarily going to predict a team that would be perfect for him to go to yet, because I think it's just too premature to do that, because he could sign in the next few weeks to a team, or he could wait until, like I said, the All-Star break potentially. It just really fluctuates, and that's for him to decide for sure, or for a team to decide they want to offer him the most money. So we'll see about that. I think at this point for Damian Lillard, though, it's important for him to be on a team that's going to best position him to win a championship. Where that is exactly, I'm not sure. If it's in the Eastern Conference, I don't know about that. If it's in the West, maybe. As a Devin Booker fan, I would love for the Suns to buy out Bradley Beal and then maybe sign Damian Lillard to be in the backcourt with Devin Booker. But then again, you have Jalen Green too, so that's a whole mess over there. So I probably wouldn't even wish that on Damian Lillard. But regardless of that situation, though, or anything like that, Damian Lillard, he is chilling, relaxing, getting bread at the same time, getting ready to get back right, attacking surgery and rehab. So I think that this is a perfect storm for him and getting out of Milwaukee. No disrespect to the Milwaukee Bucks organization, but yeah. So with that being said though, guys, before we dive a little bit deeper into really every single team and the most significant moves from this year 2025 NBA free agency, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. We post videos here about the NBA, NFL, Marvel, DC, pop culture, short videos and content and things of that nature too. Follow me on Instagram at SwaggyRuss, on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for more short videos and stuff like that and just connecting overall. And with that being said, let's get deeper into the biggest moves and takeaways from this year's 2025 NBA free agency. So in my opinion, I think it would be a little redundant if I just went over every single move that happened in this NBA free agency. I think it would be pointless. I mean, there's always dozens of free agents every single season. But we're going to talk about the most significant ones. And I was mentioning the Milwaukee Bucks a little bit earlier. They re-signed Kevin Porter Jr. on a 2-year, $11 million deal. I guess it's probably going to look like he's going to be the starting point guard for them the next couple of seasons, with a Damian Lillard being waived and stuff like that too. If a player like him could make a jump for the Bucks, and by a jump I mean potentially averaging like anywhere from 17 to 19 points per game with what, like 5 rebounds, 5 assists, that would be able to be good for the Bucks and provide a good boost. They signed a guy in Gary Harris who we knew was solid for the Nuggets when he was there in his tenure, but for the Magic there was some injuries and hadn't been as significant, but that's a solid piece there too as well. But I was talking about KPJ a little bit. I don't necessarily expect him to go crazy, but anything is possible, because when I remember when he was on the Rockets, he certainly had flashes. He had a 50-point game against Jrue Holiday, who we know is one of the best on-ball guard defenders that we've seen. So we'll see what the Milwaukee Bucks do, but like I said, I wouldn't expect too much from them. Obviously, Giannis is one of the top 3 to 5 players in the league, so you can never underestimate him. He's a perennial MVP candidate when he is healthy. That's what they'll need for sure to be relevant. And adding in a Miles Turner, that certainly helps their front court from a perimeter shooting standpoint. Essentially getting a 8-year younger version of Brook Lopez at the center position. That's a little more versatile and more agile. So shout out to them for, like I said earlier, getting Miles Turner from their biggest op in the Pacers. I like that move. And Gary Trent Jr. also re-signing with the Bucks too, a good 3-and-D player as well on a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. That was pretty reasonable there for sure. But like I said, I still realistically don't see the Bucks making it further than the second round, maybe even losing the first round again, because we've seen them in the past couple of years losing the first round as well too. Although injuries, of course, were a big factor. Dame tearing his Achilles in the 2025 first round, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo being unavailable in the playoffs in 2024. So they were dealt a bad hand there, but ultimately health is a part of the game and I just can't trust them. But a sneaky move from an Eastern Conference team that I like was the New York Knicks signing Jordan Clarkson after he was bought out from the Utah Jazz. And although he's 33 years old, he's still a really effective player, especially off of the bench. We saw him finish as a 6th Man of the Year finalist before, and specifically he won 6th Man of the Year in the 2020-2021 season. A good boost for that New York Knicks team for some scoring off of the bench. The Knicks did just hire Mike Brown as their head coach, so we'll see what they're able to do. I do like that move in signing Jordan Clarkson to be under Mike Brown. And like I said, he's a really good coach. He's won Coach of the Year. He's coached guys like LeBron James before in the past in his tenure in Cleveland, and I really don't like how the Sacramento Kings did him, but we all know the type of franchise that they are. So Mike Brown, I think that he's going to be able to continue to build on the type of season and success that the New York Knicks had, and I think he's a really good hire for the New York Knicks for sure. And like I said, the East is wide open, so the Knicks certainly can be back in the mix. Made the conference finals, losing to the Pacers in 6 games, but I do like that move. That's a really good move and a sneaky good move for them. And also with the Bucks, they signed Taurean Prince. The Bucks kept a lot of continuity besides waiving Damian Lillard and then obviously Brook Lopez, signing with the Los Angeles Clippers on a 2-year, $18 million deal. I guess we can expect Brook Lopez to be the backup big to Ivica Zubac on the Clippers. I guess sometimes it may be different lineup starting, but you never want to start both of them together, because although Brook Lopez, he can stretch the floor, I still wouldn't start Brook Lopez and Ivica Zubac at the same time simultaneously. But it's interesting because reports were that the Los Angeles Lakers were interested in signing Brook Lopez to be their starting center, which would have made it his second stint with the Los Angeles Lakers after being there in the 2017-18 season. But he chose the Clippers, and I know the Lakers just signed DeAndre Ayton to a 2-year, $16.6 million deal, which you would think in a nutshell fulfills their center need, and it is an upgrade certainly over Jackson Hayes, but I'm still not convinced from a physicality standpoint, and I think they need another big, at least a backup big, to help even more defensively, because at times DeAndre Ayton just taps out, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that's just the truth. I'm kind of questioning that fit, but I'll talk about that a little bit more. But it's interesting because Brook Lopez potentially could have signed with the Los Angeles Lakers to be their starting center. It's like as if he took a lesser deal and a lesser role to play for the other LA team. So I don't know. That says a lot to me, but that's very interesting in my opinion. And also, speaking of the Clippers a little bit more, James Harden signed a new 2-year, $81.5 million deal. And I'm not going to roast James too much on that because, well, he's about to turn 36, I believe, in August, but $40 million per year. And I'm not saying James Harden isn't a great great player or hasn't been a great player. Obviously, he's not the same player that he was in Houston. But dude, these playoff performances, man, especially this past year, they had the opportunity to beat the Nuggets in the playoffs after having a 3-2 series lead. James Harden did not play good, and he had a signature underwhelming James Harden performance. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. In my opinion, I cannot hand out $40 million to that, but hey, the Clippers are different than me. I just don't take them serious still as a contending team doing stuff like that, making a move like that. And like I said, James Harden, he was really good in the regular season, so no slight on that. We already know that with him though. In the playoffs, that's where it matters most. And I can't hand out $40 million to a guy who repeatedly shows me who he is in the playoffs. But hey, that's the Clippers betting on that. I will say Kawhi Leonard, he played really good down the stretch, so maybe they're continuing to bank on that as well, in combination with James Harden not having that stress and pressure to perform and have that much pressure. So we'll see, but I don't know, man. I don't agree with the move, but it is what it is with that. And I also talked about the Orlando Magic a little bit earlier too. They signed Tyus Jones to a 1-year, $7 million deal. I like that, providing some more guard depth at the position just in case. And like I said, the Magic, they are loading up a really good roster for this 2025 season after making a trade for Desmond Bane a few weeks ago. Paolo Banchero being one of the, I'd probably say, the top 15 to 25 players in the league. Continuing to get better. Franz Wagner being a really good player as well too. Jalen Suggs hopefully returning back healthy, being a really good defensive guard. Still having a really deep team, and adding Desmond Bane to that mix, adding Tyus Jones helps for their depth and versatility. Having Anthony Black, I mentioned in my draft video, I really like the draft that they had, bringing in Jace Richardson and Noah Penda, having Caleb Houston and other players like that. So I think that this Magic team, they could be similar to the Indiana Pacers in terms of the type of ferocity and tenaciousness that they play with, and giving teams a lot of fits in the playoffs, because we even saw that in the 2024 playoffs when they played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, forcing them to a Game 7 in the first round. They played really good then. They fell short, but still they played really good. And Jamal Mosley, I think he has really reinvigorated that culture in Orlando and has them playing some really good and inspired basketball down there. So I would definitely keep my eyes on the Magic as a potential team to finish, of course, top 4, maybe even surprise more than that. So we'll see about that for sure. And with Luke Kornet going to the San Antonio Spurs, which is a solid move, I would say, just providing some more front court depth for that Spurs team, who I think had a really good offseason and draft for sure. The Boston Celtics, they signed Luka Garza. We all know they traded for Anthony Simons. There was rumors about them potentially flipping Simons again, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen now after receiving him in that Drew Holiday trade. But adding in Luka Garza, I mean, backup big man, that hasn't necessarily played the most minutes throughout his career so far, but I understand the move for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics in ways punted next season to try to get a top pick, trying to draft a player like a AJ Damanasa, a Cameron Boozer, or Darren Patterson, but I'm not sure they're going to be that bad because they still have Jaylen Brown, and if they have Anthony Simons, I think that team could still potentially be close to a play-in team or like a lower Eastern Conference playoff seed team, so we'll see about that for sure. I think a sneaky move that not a lot of people have talked about, after the Pistons had a really good season in 2025, finishing as a 6th seed and playing a really competitive series against the New York Knicks, them signing a player like Karis LeVert, who has bounced around a little bit now, but he is still a solid scorer, especially off of the bench. Averaged 15 points per game with the Hawks after being traded from the Cavaliers. That just provides some more scoring to that Pistons team, who is another one of those tough teams in the Eastern Conference that could potentially try to make a run and even elevate even more than what they did last season as well too. So the Pistons will certainly be in the mix. And then some deals, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna talk about them very quickly because I think it'll be, like I said, redundant just to talk about every single one. But man, Dennis Schroeder, he has really played for a lot of teams throughout his career now. He just signed a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Sacramento Kings. Like I said, shout out to him for getting his bread and still having a role in the NBA. It's crazy though. It's like every time he signs with a new team, then like before the trade deadline or a couple of weeks before the trade deadline, they end up shipping him to a new team and he just continues to get moved around. But hey, that's no disrespect. He's played for 10 different NBA teams, but hey, that's continuing to stay in the league and be relevant. So I give all respect to that too. Man, a lot of people aren't talking about a lot of these moves because I didn't mention it earlier and I meant to say it in the intro. This was for sure a role player rich type of free agency, which there's nothing wrong with that because you need role players to win at the highest level in the NBA finals to get you there. I mean, we saw that with the Thunder, with the Pacers throughout these playoffs, particularly because you need these players to be stars in their roles because this is not a super team era anymore. I continue to mention the second apron. You're not going to be able to build these super teams. Ask the Phoenix Suns how that went. So you're not going to be able to do that. But like I said, this is a role player rich type of free agency. And Ty Jerome signing with the Grizzlies, I think is a really good move. He signed a 3-year contract worth $28 million. He was a 6th man of the year finalist. He averaged nearly 13 points per game, shooting 51% from the field and 44% from 3. So I like that move, just providing some more guard depth behind the Ja Morant. Sometimes you can probably play him in a starting lineup as well too, alongside Ja. And speaking of the Grizzlies as well too, they just extended Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million contract extension. He won Defensive Player of the Year in the 2023 season, so shout out to him. I think it was probably inevitable that he was going to get this contract for them. The real question is going to be, are they going to extend Ja Morant, because he is also contract extension eligible this season too, and we know that's going to further them to being closer or to already surpassing the threshold to being a part of the second apron if they do offer Ja Morant that contract extension and he accepts it. So we'll see about that, man. I'm not sure. And they had a vision of the under 2 Tomas Asalo, I'm probably said his name wrong, the new head coach for the Grizzlies though, who took over the reins after they fired Taylor Jenkins. So we'll see if that vision comes to fruition and they'll be able to play some improved basketball, because they kind of collapsed after being a top 4 to 5 seed, dropping all the way down to being the 8th seed and getting swept by the Thunder in the first round. So they certainly have some improvements to make, but I think signing a player like a Ty Jerome is a step in the right direction. Extending Jaren Jackson Jr. is a step in the right direction too, even though it's interesting though, because Jaren Jackson literally just suffered a turf toe injury and he's going to need a procedure after just signing the new $240 million contract extension. So I think it'll probably be good for the season though. I mean, it's July right now, so there's some time, but we'll see what the Grizzlies are able to do, because I'm intrigued by their situation. Speaking of intriguing, another move that is kind of compelling in my opinion is D'Angelo Russell signing with the Dallas Mavericks. That's a good guard to help steady things down while Kyrie Irving is out and be able to play in the lineup with a guy like a Cooper Flagg, who's going to be, in my opinion, I think rookie of the year as long as he stays healthy and is put in great positions by Jason Kidd to flourish in his rookie year. Could play point forward at times too, but D'Angelo Russell signing a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Mavs is really good, and just being there while Kyrie Irving is out. But we might expect Kyrie Irving to be back post All-Star break, and I wonder how D'Angelo Russell's role is going to be after that. I mean, probably he's just going to come off the bench. It's probably that simple, probably overthinking it, but I don't know. It's interesting, but that's definitely a good guard to have in the meantime, to play alongside Klay Thompson in the backcourt. Like I said, to be alongside Cooper Flagg, be there with AD, be with Jason Kidd. They have a really deep team now too. Play with bigs like a Daniel Gafford, play with players like a PJ Washington. So I like what they're doing for sure in Dallas, and if they stay healthy or able to have health as a continuity with AD in lineup, and then when Kyrie Irving returns, them all being healthy, hey, they could really make a good run, and Nico Harrison could look like a mad scientist. But in my opinion, as a Luka Doncic fan, I still think that he's crazy for that move. But yeah, some more mailbag type of free agents that we can talk about real quick. Eric Gordon re-signing with the 76ers on a 1-year vet minimum deal. Solid shooter at times, but sometimes streaky, but that leads me further to talking about the 76ers as one of these teams that could potentially be in the mix as well in the Eastern Conference. But it all impedes on the health of Joel Embiid, because if he has a season like the 2024-25 season where he only played 19 games, you could throw all that type of talk out of the window. Even though Tyrese Maxey is an all-star type of guard, Paul George, we'll see about him this season. I don't know. That last season was really rough. It just really was. That's the most simple way to play it. But them returning a player like Jared McCain is really good. VJ Edgecombe, he's going to be a really good rookie too. So if Joel Embiid can play like he did in the 2022-23 season, or even in 23-24, despite him battling some injuries, the type of playoff performance that he had then, that would be able to help the 76ers be in the mix and make some noise for sure too. But there's a lot of ifs there, and I don't know if I trust that. But they brought back Eric Gordon. Trey Mann re-signed with the Hornets. I mean, cool for them. They have a lot of guards down there. Like I said in my draft video, I'm really not sure what they're doing. They traded for Colin Sexton too, who was solid, but I'm not sure. They just drafted Con Kneppel too. They still have LaMelo. So yeah, a lot going on there. Duncan Robinson was acquired by the Pistons in a sign and trade. Talking about the Karis LeVert move earlier, I think that this Duncan Robinson move is really good for Detroit, as they add another knockdown shooter in spots too to help add to their perimeter shooting. So I like that move as well. Larry Nance Jr. signing with his dad's former team that he played for in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Another big man that can be in the rotation at times off the bench too. So I like that. So there's just a lot of really good moves, I would say. And like I said, this is a really role player rich type of free agency. Not necessarily the most star heavy, but a lot of good moves to be made. We have to talk about, of course, a little bit how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander signed the highest contract from an annual salary standpoint in NBA history, signing a 4-year, $285 million deal, which is going to pay him $71.25 million per year, which, like I said, is the highest contract extension in NBA history. But even with that though, that might not end up being the highest in terms of an annual salary standpoint, because I believe Devin Booker is eligible for a 2-year, $150 million contract extension with the Phoenix Suns, which would pay him $75 million per year, which then that would be the highest. So that hasn't necessarily happened yet, but we'll see what happens if he's able to sign it, because that's just some buku amounts of money, guys. Because now at this point, players getting paid $70 million per year. I'm not saying they don't deserve it or anything like that. I think that would be pretty rash to say that, but it's like, man, like this is just like generational and tops of generational type of wealth, and it's, I mean, amazing to see for sure, I would say. But I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers real quick, because they kind of remind me, not necessarily to a nauseum or to an exact type of comparison of what the Dallas Cowboys did in the NFL from their 2024 offseason, not really being complacent and stuff like that, but what are they doing? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of them or anything like that, because like I said, I'm a Luka fan and I want them to do well. And, you know, there's been a lot of conversation the past couple of days with LeBron opting into his $52 million player option, that, oh, there's trade conversation and stuff like that. I think LeBron is going nowhere, first and foremost, with that, but that's besides the point. My thing is, I wonder if Luka Doncic is going to sign this extension in August, or if he's going to wait until next season to see how things go after the 25-26 season, which is certainly interesting. I think he's going to stay in LA though. Like, I don't even think that's a thing. About to be eligible in August to sign a 4-year, $229 million deal. But I'm really intrigued to see the type of big man that they're going to sign, because like I said, DeAndre Ayton, you would probably expect that to be a perfect fit in terms of them needing a center. Go get him. But, and I hate to call an NBA player this or insinuate something like this too, but at times, like, bro, I think he's not soft, but like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't play with that ferocity. Like I said, I'm also a D-Book fan, so I witnessed how he played against the Bucks in those 2021 NBA Finals, and I know he played against Giannis and stuff like that, so that's a tough matchup there too. But at times, I just don't think that he brings it enough. Like, sometimes he's just disinterested and stuff like that too. And there's reports about that being consistent as well too, from the Portland Trailblazers perspective as well, because sometimes he seemed like he was out of it and stuff like that too. So we certainly know that DeAndre Ayton, he is a talented player for sure. He's been a walking double-double throughout his career. Last season in 2024-25, averaged 14 and 10. In the 2024 season, 16 and 10. 2023, 18 and 10. So I mean, he's a walking double-double, but it's just really the mindset for me. And I'm not sure that he will match with the Lakers in terms of that perspective, but desperate times calls for desperate measures to make sure they have some bigs alongside Luka. But you need a big that's for sure gonna be able to stretch the floor, play well defensively also, but be there in perfect spots with Luka off of the pick and roll to help be effective on the offensive end. And you can make that same argument with that big being paired with LeBron James. I still think the Lakers are gonna be really good because you still have Luka Doncic and LeBron James, but they need to continue to not be complacent and make some moves if they really want to build a true championship contender. So only time will tell with that. The Timberwolves had pretty much a chalk type of offseason in retaining free agents. I did mention though, of course, Nickeil Alexander, he signed a 4-year, $62 million deal with the Hawks, so they couldn't keep everyone, but they re-signed Naz Reid to a 5-year, $125 million deal. They re-signed Julius Randle to a 3-year, $100 million deal as well too. So they kept most of their continuity, and I still think that the Timberwolves, they'll probably be a top 5 seed again. They made the conference finals 2 years in a row. Anthony Edwards is a budding superstar for sure too, so they'll for sure be in the mix. And I wonder how much more guard depth they're going to do, and I hope for the Timberwolves that they implement a player like a Rob Dillingham more this upcoming season as well too, under a Mike Conley of course, but simultaneously getting him more minutes as well too, because I think he's a really talented player, but he barely played and barely had significant minutes in this past 24-25 season in his rookie year. But the Timberwolves, they had a pretty standard offseason in terms of bringing back their key players for sure. Apparently a deal for Jonathan Kuminga could be taking place soon here, so I'm not sure about that. We'll see. It's going to be reported after I drop this video, but that's compelling for sure. But with that being said though, guys, let me know some of your biggest deals. Like I said, I didn't want to talk about every single thing. I just want to talk about the most significant deals that make a difference in terms of affecting next season and really just beyond that. I think the Damian Lillard situation is certainly compelling. Coming off of this Achilles injury, he's certainly going to be very inspired to show why he's still a really good player and one of the best guards of all time, one of the top 75 players of all time too. So I'm looking forward to seeing his return and who he will potentially sign with to beat as he continues to get ready for a return after this Achilles injury. So I'm intrigued for that. I'm intrigued by the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Hawks making these moves to help try to further their chances into a championship and title window. And like I said, the Eastern Conference is wide open next season, so I'm looking forward to all of the moves and really the season upcoming for sure. So as we all know, in the trade market with NBA free agency, this is really a 365-day full type of year type of process. The NBA, yes, it's the offseason, but the offseason in ways at times is more compelling than the regular season. So it's been a lot to talk about for sure. We're going to continue to talk about more in the NBA offseason and beyond because, like I said, there's always stuff happening for sure, and there's always news and drama around the NBA, so y'all stay tuned for that for sure. But with that being said though, guys, like I said, let me know your biggest thoughts from the NBA free agency period so far. There's going to be more to talk about for sure, and I know eventually I'm probably going to end up previewing teams for the upcoming NBA season, but we still have some time for sure for that. I mean, the NBA season just ended, and also with that, I still have to preview all my NFL teams because the NFL season starts in September, and we know free agency, and we know that the NFL preseason actually starts on July 31st. So like I said, I gotta get back to that, but I wanted to take some time to make some NBA videos for sure too, and stay tuned for more because, like I said, whenever there's some relevant news to talk about or some unexpected breaking news, we're gonna dive deep into it and talk about it and analyze it for sure. So stay tuned for that, guys. But like I said, y'all keep being blessed always. Stay tuned for more videos and content. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you're not subscribed. Yes, I'm talking to you. Join the channel, man. We post a lot of great stuff here, guys, and we're always interactive and talk. If you have some thoughts on the video or just in general or on social media want to connect with me, let me know, man, because like I said, I love this sports stuff. I love the NBA and NFL, college football, college basketball as well too. Let's talk about this beautiful thing in life we have called sports, because I love the NBA, I love the NFL, and I love basketball and football. So y'all stay tuned for that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, TikTok at SwaggyRuss02. Stay tuned for more video, guys. Y'all keep being blessed. Keep Jesus Christ at the center of your life always. Know that you are here for a reason. You have purpose, guys. Don't let anyone say otherwise. And yeah, with that being said, y'all have a good one. Keep being blessed, and I love y'all. Peace.